Really, what is life? What is death? What am I doing here? Who am I without?
I sat up in bed and I realized in that instant of sitting up in bed and breathing, I went, like this breathing in air. I realized I hadn't been breathing the whole time that I would have been in this experience. And I made that sound so loudly, it woke Tony up, and he sat up and said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know, but my life will never be the same again."
It got bigger and bigger and brighter until it was filling in every direction, and it was made up of lights and flames and white, and just got closer and closer, and then all of a sudden it hit me.
But suddenly there was like this kind of like this portal just opened, that there I could just sense that I have access to all the information in the universe.
So I had like this very deep connection with my team, offered up this prayer, and within like 2 months, my entire life fell apart. So, you know, spirit doesn't mess around. And when you ask, it is always given.
And then in that dream, I understood that what I am is mirrored throughout the whole cosmos, that I'm part of all of that. I am literally part of everything in the cosmos, and all of that is part of me. It can be seen by me through these mirrors. And so I felt like this web of life, you cannot unplug from it. You cannot get out of it. No matter what you do, you are in it, and it is glorious. And all of that energy and potential and creativity and possibility is ours. And that all of the universe is reflected in our very being, in our very selves. And everything that we are is reflected throughout the whole universe too. There is no separateness. There is no such thing as anything being separate.
2020, what a ride. My life is 100,000 times better than I ever imagined it could be.
Well, hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome in. It's another episode of the Buddhist Biohacker. My name is Lisa. I am your mystic guide and the host of the Buddhist Biohacker YouTube channel. And welcome to everybody who's joining. I would love for you to share where you're from. We love that so very much. And I'm thrilled because I am here today with Michele Snelling, who is a dear friend, a colleague, and an incredibly gifted medium and healer herself. So welcome, Michele. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so excited for our first show. And can I just say that trailer for that movie? Oh, every time I see it, it gets me. It just gets me at a soul level. It's beautiful. And another gorgeous piece of content you've put together for all of us. And I can't thank you enough. So,
oh, thank you. You know, I'll tell you what, Awaken Grace is probably at the top of my passions. And I have 15 episodes for our first season, and which will be this year. And then I'll be filming other episodes for next year. And I plan on continuing to share stories of awakening because they're so profound. I mean, you think the trailer's amazing? Like, try editing these and watching them, hours and hours and hours of watching these stories over and over. Like, I have been blown apart by those stories.
Yeah. And I think it's so incredible. I mean, the stories themselves are beautiful. And I know that they didn't all happen like in 2020, but the fact that, so many things did happen and that people have an even deeper realization, I just love from this year that so many have termed like hell and crappy. And you know what I mean?
I do.
It's been the best for so many. And I don't think we can, ignore that. So
I totally agree. Now we're here. So this is a brand new addition to Buddhist Biohacker, and our show is called Truth Refined. And I think we talk a little bit about what we're even doing with this show.
Yes.
And why we wanted to do it. Because I think we wanted to cut through the BS. I feel like there's not a lot of folks talking about how to really deal with the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really came from a personal conversation that you and I were having about how things were changing for us. And we, don't necessarily understand it, don't know what the path is, whatever. And that can cause some unease and some fear and whatever. But, you've got to get to the truth. You've got to. And there's certain ways that you can get to the truth. And that, I can't remember the gentleman that you mentioned in our conversation that was talking about the middle.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But that, that led to, wow. I mean, we went a whole bunch of ways with that. So
we did. Yeah. Cause it was all about, I think it was Andrew Bartzis. And
yes.
what Michele and I were talking about, for everybody out there to have some context, is there's definitely people taking sides, right? There's one narrative, there's another narrative. And I think the trick is to not be on either narrative and to step out of it. And even saying that can anger some people. Like, it's hard to pull out of the narrative because you want so badly to believe in reality. And it feels, Michele, I was saying yesterday, I said, I sort of feel like Neo in the Matrix when he looks around and everything is like codes. And he's like not seeing like reality anymore. And I think a lot of us are feeling that way. And hi, everybody. Oh my gosh. Hi, Karen. Hi, Lily. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Michele. I want to throw it to the audience while Michele and I kind of share our thoughts about all this. What are you guys struggling when it comes to the narratives, to your own personal truth, to your relationships things that are happening there? Like, what are you struggling with? Because I think that's going to help us to know how to help you, because this show is about supporting you and each other. I think Michele and I wanted to support each other.
Yes.
And how do we stay out of it? Because you get caught, it's so easy to get caught up in politics or the financial markets or, even the spiritual stuff, like who's right? Like, is this spiritual teacher right? Is that one right? I mean, what do we even do,
Yeah. And when we talked about this, I said that it was probably early August, when I really started feeling like I'm just kind of done with all of this BS, like all of it. The virus crap. Can I say that word? Yeah. I can say that, right? That one's okay. So. Okay. The reason for the the virus, the shutdown, the politics, all of it. That as conspiracy theory, not conspiracy theory. And really what led me to be done with it was, it felt like an overwhelming amount of information, but the shame is what I could not tolerate. I could not tolerate the shaming that I was seeing on both sides to the other side. And I think what really, and this is me not being in the middle at all, but this is really what it was, is I was seeing all of these people that are woke, spiritual, all about love and light. And they were the ones throwing the most dirt and throwing the most shame. And I'm just like, I had a hard time with that. And so I just thought, when I was meditating one day, and I just thought, what if I just go to the middle and I don't have an opinion, for the first time in my life, because I'm a strongly opinionated girl. What if I just didn't have an opinion? And so I started, just every time I would feel an opinion, or I would just I had this visual of this road, and I would just bring myself right back to the center line, like I was riding that center line, And I just noticed that it helped so much. It helped tremendous amount. And
well, yeah, and to completely put an exclamation point on what you're saying, I was in the same boat. It's a tricky thing, and I know you know this, Michele, and is, I channel, right? And so the information that I receive about the galactics of this, because this is so much bigger than the United States politics. This is way beyond our planet, way beyond our solar system. I mean,
and bigger than a virus.
Yes, it's so big.
Yeah.
And so the information that I receive can be very jarring. And what happened was, my husband and I went on this journey, because he would ask me, what is this all about? That you're talking about, and what is real? And I didn't know how to communicate that linear. I didn't understand it. So we went on our own journey of exploration and discovered all the information about the theories out there and things this last year. And I can tell you guys, I didn't know about a lot of it, but I also received a lot of information about a lot of it. So I was kind of surprised. Whoa, there's a lot of people who know truth out there. But same as you, it was easy to get hooked. And I think that's really what I want to share with everybody is, if it's hooking you, it's not of the highest light. And that was where I had the same epiphany you did, which was, we have to get out of this, because I'm waiting to get information from sources about the narrative, whichever side it's on.
Yeah.
And that's a hook. That's an energetic pull, when really the highest place to be is out of it, and to just be with the unknown. The divine feminine is I just am going to be okay with whatever happens, because our missions in these avatar bodies they don't have anything to do with waiting for information. They have to do with creating, and being a form of God in the world. And so that was where I was same as you. I'm dude, what if I just, and the shaming also, I agree. And the political propaganda, that doesn't feel good to me. That didn't feel like spiritual energy to me. It felt very, icky and sticky. And
yes.
I love what people are sharing. Carrie said it's so difficult to help people understand what it is like to be out of the narrative. How do we explain that to people, help them understand? And some of you guys are talking about, feeling also misled and just done kind of with the stories. And so thank you guys for your comments, and keep them coming.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And, I would like to say that I don't channel like you, Lisa. You know what I mean? I am so fascinated by the fact that you got this information, having no idea what it was. Then you went searching and found that other people know this, right?
Yeah.
I love that, because that's proof that it's truth, because you didn't read it and then go, and then search for more proof of it. It came to you through that middle way. That you were in that middle way. You were in the middle and it came, right? That's you were in that source. But I don't get the information that way, but I just have my intuition is on. It's like spidey sense, whatever you want to call it. Like I knew when January 2020 came that something wasn't right. I knew it. Like before we even started, I knew something wasn't right and I didn't know what it was. But I just kind of said, this doesn't feel right all along. But I got to a point where it's like, I had to stop asking why. Like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Because all that did was take me in this spiral that took me down further and took me further away from my truth. And really, at the end of the day, I think that's what our show is about, is each of us finding our truth. It doesn't have to be the same. My truth doesn't have to be your truth. You know, Carrie's truth doesn't have to be our truth. It might be some of this, a little of that, more of that, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's about finding ours. And I think that it really is scary too. There's a fear about moving out of it. But the interesting thing is, I love what you were saying about the divine feminine and the uncertainty, because isn't that what everybody was having the hardest time with in 2021 or 2020 was being uncertain.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't stand it because we just thought we knew what was going to be. It's always been this way. You know what I mean? And we have to be comfortable being in the uncertain. That's the truth of it. If we really want it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have to. And so I mean, there's so much we could just keep going about. But I don't know, do we have more comments? Yeah. And, Lily says, one thing I did want to say though, was it's so scary to leave the groups or the narrative that you've been connected with for a long time. Because these are people we love. They're people we know, people we've looked up to. You know what I mean? There's a lot of, and it's a challenge. I mean, and the unfortunate thing for me is I have seen like families torn apart by the political narrative. And it's like, just because they're so entrenched in their own opinion. It's like, wow, it's unfortunate, but.
Yeah. Well, and even just looking at the leaders in the spiritual community and them being torn apart and relationships, dismantling and the disappointment with each other and all of those things. And it's a real thing to have to deal with right now is, well, who believes what and where do we want to go from here? And when we talk about leaving the narrative, true compassion is meeting everyone where they're at. And just like you're saying, Michele, everybody has different beliefs and feelings. And I'm really sick and tired of spiritual leaders and teachers saying that people are not awake if they don't believe XYZ, because that is a judgment of someone's awakening and where they're at. And I think everyone is where they're supposed to be. And everyone has the same opportunities and the equal right to create what they've decided to create in this life and what they're choosing to do right now. And so to judge it just really made me angry. And it really led me to creating the Ajatakasha app. I mean, I created the social media app because I just wanted a space where we can all be ourselves and we aren't going to judge each other and we can just share. And it's been so profound to open up that community space and see the art and the altars and the different religions and the different beliefs and the creativity and the support of the community, because everybody's able to share themselves. And if the whole world was like that, it would be a lot better.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine. I mean, I've been having some stuff going on this year, and so I've been really quiet. And just taking a step back to really find my truth. And the only way that I could do that was to really be still I really, and I love that it's winter. That's perfect. But I've been having memories of things like from a long time ago that have come up that are important that wouldn't have come up if I was if I was busy and there was a lot of noise and stuff. But the memory that came to me several weeks ago was I was little. I was probably 4, maybe. We were in church. I don't know what was going on, what was being said, but all of a sudden I had this visual of the church was packed, and I had this visual of every single person in that church on a path, their own path. Like they were all different colors, they were all different shapes, rock, sand, whatever. But everybody was going to this same bright light. It was just like this beautiful, bright golden sun. And everybody was walking there, but they were on, you know what I mean? Like some people went around this thing and, but it just showed me like everybody's on their own path. And so you don't need to worry. Like you don't worry that they're going over there. They're going there. You know what I mean? They just need to take that little detour or whatever. And so I had forgotten about that, but that was profound and really, made an impact on me so that I really have tried my best not to judge somebody for what they're doing in their life, as long as they're not hurting a child or, you know what I mean? Something like that. But, I remembered that, and it's like, that's really what the bottom line is. That's compassion. Just what you said. That's compassion. If we can remember that, we all are individuals. We all come into this with our own purpose, our own personality, our own all this, and it's going to be different. That's okay. Like, can't we embrace that? Why do we have to shame everybody?
I totally agree.
I don't understand it, and I'm sick of it. Like, I'm sick of it. Anyway, so yeah,
we both are, which is why we're doing the
show. Exactly. And I'm a little angry. If you can't, I'm a little angry about it. And I'm, and like you said, there's anger and it's still, I'm working through all that because it just, every once in a while, I'll read something on a typical app, not the Ajata app, which if you're watching this now live replay and you're not on Ajata, you've got to get over there because it is absolutely the most beautiful space. And you can feel the energy the minute you open it. It's like you can just feel it. It is, we're all energetic, whether we understand it or not. And there's an energy to all this stuff we're doing. So when you get on Ajata, you can feel how good it feels. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, and it's really profound what you shared about your experience with the paths. Because I had a very similar experience back in January. I did this guided meditation that was this like path to 5D. And it was like, go look at so you went through this journey and you got on your path to 5D and you're like looking at the path. And I saw the 3D path, which again, we can talk about how all that's sort of BS, but there was this 3D path and I saw that they ended up meeting in the front. And I had a very similar epiphany of you and a very similar visualization where I was like, we all still go to the same place. Like this really isn't a matter of, because there's a little bit of elitist energy within this whole who's 5D, who's 3D, all that stuff. And, my belief, and I think it's worth talking about, are there multiple dimensions? Yes. But I did a presentation. I actually did a PowerPoint presentation that is on my channel right now called 1111D. And I did a PowerPoint about the dimensions because about May, or it was probably May of last year, I was like, everybody's spouting this 5D, but nobody really knows what anyone's talking about. And so if you're wondering, I'll try to figure out how to put a card link up on the replay for that video. But it is it's called 1111D if you go to the Buddhist Biohacker playlist. But I go through the different dimensions and, there's 11 in super string theory, there's 11 dimensions. But scientists are saying there could be, millions. We don't really know, right? Yeah. Super string theory says there's 11 dimensions. And the thing is, we can experience all of those at the same time. So this whole concept of going from 3D to 5D, while there's validity to it, it's not really an accurate portrayal of our interdimensional experience as beings on the planet Earth and as spiritual energies, souls inside the body. You can really experience multiple dimensions in the meditation, in a guided journey, in your conscious state. There's all these experiences. And the ascension cycle that we're in is really, the Earth has already moved into fourth density consciousness. And so all of that, again, is like jargon. It's not valid, but it's not like you're not going to go there. I mean, there are people that I've seen that are afraid they're not going to go to the new reality. And I think it's really, you create your reality. So don't get caught up in all of this. Am I in 5D? Am I doing? Because I think there's a lot of shaming around not being 5D. There's a lot of that going on.
Absolutely. And, the first thing that I thought of when it was happening, because I don't necessarily have the scientific brain to hold on to all of the terminology and grasp all the concepts in real depth, but I do understand, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because, I'm intuitive and so I can connect and feel and whatever. But, and like you, I'm like, well, I don't feel like I'm always in 5D. So does that mean I'm not okay? You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's not true. And what it reminded me of is just when people say, oh, if you're not saved if you don't do this exactly right, or if you don't do that exactly right, with different organized religions and things like that. It's like, it's a means of control. And, and that's to me what this is too. It's just like, and I think that compassion, that word is so important. Like compassion is, if we really practice that on a daily basis for ourselves and for, and maybe we need to start with everybody outside of us, because sometimes that's easier than with ourselves. But if we really practice compassion, that would do so much to healing this world. It really would. And and it's just the shaming. I mean, it's turned into a form of the old Inquisition. Lily's right. That's, know what I mean? Where you're even afraid to say anything. You know what I mean? You're afraid to say, oh my God, what are they, you know what I mean? If I say what I really feel, like who's going to come at me? And it keeps being something different. First it was masks. Then it was, and 5D in there. Now it's I don't know if I can say the word, but the thing that you can go and get a card that says you got it, you know, now it's that. And then, who knows? It's just going to keep going, because it's all about separation. That's what I believe the end goal of whatever this thing is. It's like depersonalization, separation, there's a lot of people that have been posting lately. I've seen about how, even with masks on, you can see people's eyes and connect. And yes, I agree. However, we cannot underestimate the impact that having a mask on all the time does for us, for human connection. Mm-hmm. We can't get a full view of the person. That's not good for us. No. I don't believe. Anyway.
I agree with you. And, to get even more controversial, like the segregation happening even like on Prime Video. Like we're segregating and separating genres, races, sexes, all of these things. And it's like cutting the pie and cutting the pie and cutting the pie. And the purpose of self-realization and enlightenment is actually, you're bringing it all together and all together and all together until you realize that we are interconnected beings, that we are all together. We are all one. When I first channeled Aksun back in 2008, that night he said through me, we are all one. We are one heart. We are all one. And that's the truth. And so this consistent separation is so destructive for all of us. And I think we can recognize each other as individuals and our true individual gifts, our inherent talents, our beliefs, and all those things. You know, it makes me think, Michele, this really profound teaching. So, you know, I follow His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Yes.
For those of you out there, I spent 7 years following him around. I'm trying to finish my book about that. But for 7 years, I saw him 7 times, once a year, and was able to
goosebumps.
Oh, he's so amazing. I took this photo. So this photo up here, I actually took this photo of His Holiness. This is on the White House lawn in Washington, D.C., and was this close and got a picture of him. And I actually have several photos of him that will be in the middle of the book, you know, that I took of him from when I saw him. But one of his most profound teaching, I'll never forget this. This was in Washington, D.C., so this is 2011. And he was doing a teaching at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. for the Kala Chakra. And he said to everyone that was there, he said, because a lot of people were converting to Buddhism at that event. It was an initiation event. So you had the opportunity to take your Buddhist vows with His Holiness. So a lot of people were doing that. And so he said in the teaching, he said the Tibetan language and culture is being lost because the Chinese government, of course, came in and took over, and they're actually tearing down statues and temples, sound familiar? And rebuilding them in their own language. So this is very familiar if you pay attention to what's happening in the US. But they tore that down and they were rebuilding. And so what the Dalai Lama had said was, you know, his culture is being lost. And the Tibetan language isn't even being taught anymore. And so his lesson was, he said, I know many of you want to become Buddhists today. He said, but he said, there is so much value in your own individual religious tradition, philosophies, languages, where you come from, who you are. He said, do not convert to Buddhism because you are running away from that or because you want to erase that. He said, you want to adopt the philosophy of the Buddhist traditions in your life, but you really want to value your traditions. And it was really powerful for me. I'm raised Irish Catholic, and it was powerful teaching because I thought, gosh, like, he's right. Like, I grew up going to midnight mass, and I actually had a really lovely experience as a Catholic. So I don't have like Catholic guild or any of that kind of programming, but I had a really lovely experience. But the point is, you know, what do I want my kids to experience, you know, and how do I want them to grow up and what do I want them to think? And so it really is this interesting teaching of like, wow, we have to value our own beliefs. And it goes back to what you and I are saying, which is everyone is where they're at. And that's the beauty of it. We are all so different and unique, and we bring all these different traditions and cultures and values and teachers, and we all learn from each other. It's so important.
It is. And I mean, what wisdom, like we know the Dalai Lama is wise, but that, and in that, just that teaching, for him to say that to an arena full of people, like, don't do this because you don't like this and you like this better. You know what I mean? Like, why can't it be all of, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to say none of this, all of this, which this is the middle. That's what he's talking about. You know, incorporate the parts of Buddhism that you love, you know, and incorporate the parts of Catholicism if you love, you know what I mean? And that's a hard thing because that's really not what that's not the narrative right now. It's if you're either all this or you're none of it. And so that then when we ascribe to that way of thinking, and then we have those urges to kind of go to that old way, we shame ourselves or we tell ourselves it's wrong. Like, you know, I was raised, I'm not Irish Catholic, I'm Italian Catholic. So the guilt is deeply entrenched, you know, because that Italian, they got you. But, and, you know, but I had a wonderful, I mean, I loved church, and, you know, I left church for a very personal reason. that I'm not going to go into. It doesn't matter, but and I'm okay with it. Like, but I do know there are times when I need to go back. Like, it's like my soul just says, you need to go to that foundation. You know what I mean? And so I go, and that was that was Sunday. Like Saturday night, I knew, like, I need to go light a candle. And I thought, well, that is weird. Okay, I don't even know if I can. And then we got up the next morning and my husband said, what do you think about going and lighting a candle? And I'm like, we're lighting a candle because this, I thought it, I felt it, you said it, and it felt really good. Like, and so then the whole way there, I'm thinking, oh, is this gonna, like, am I gonna want to go back full time and everything? And then I just kept coming back to the middle. You're just going to light a candle. You don't need to make it anything more than it is. Doesn't need to, you know what I mean? And I went and lit the candle. It was beautiful. It was powerful. It felt good. Why can't that be enough?
Yeah.
So I let it be enough. And it was, it was beautiful. So I appreciate that message from, His Holiness, because I think that is true. I think, and I also think that different points in our life, we're going to be attracted to different things because of our energy. We're always changing.
Yeah.
That's another concept that I think is hard for people, is that, we are energy. We are changing. We're meant to change. We're meant to have different paths. We're meant to grow. This antiquated idea that you know exactly what you want to do when you graduate from high school. You go to college, you get your job, you stay in it until you retire. That's just, that's doesn't work. I mean, I'm 53 and I'm still figuring out exactly what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be that way till I'm done with this physical thing. I'm still going to be figuring out the truth of where I'm at. So.
Yep, I agree. I mean, amen to all of that. And I think too, there's a spiritual component here, which when you talk about the evolving and the changing, is the more that you open up your spiritual gifts, you're absolutely going to be attracted to different things because you open up those past lifetimes or alternate lifetimes, I would say, because I don't know that I believe that there's past anymore. I think it's all happening at once. Yeah. But you open up those alternate lifetimes and you start to have these experiences. I mean, I just had this powerful experience with the Aboriginal energy. And I got my book, by the way, actually.
Oh, yay.
So the book came yesterday, The People in Between. So I'm going to read this weekend. And you know what's cool is, like, I did this painting, was totally intuitive wherever it went. Oh my gosh, my app. Hold on, I'm getting it. Because this is a cool story.
Get it.
So I did this Aboriginal painting all intuitively. Okay.
So
and
gorgeous.
My husband was like, well, what the heck's this blob thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what that is. So I get this book and the whole book is about Aboriginal art. I had no idea. And look at this. There's like blobs in here.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, holy cow, like there's these blobs and so you have to understand this right here. You guys have to understand. So I love art, and I don't know that I call myself an artist, but I definitely was like in an advanced art class in junior high and high school. And I was obsessed with drawing these shapes. Obsessed. I have down in my keepsakes these exact kinds of things that I drew. So this is really powerful, but like,
yeah,
I've never been to Australia. I mean, I don't know anything about this. And so suddenly there's this massive opening about this culture and the dream time and these experiences that I've never seen before. And the same thing happened with the Dalai Lama. I mean, he came to me in a meditation. I saw this past life in which I was a monk or a lama in Lhasa, and it opened up this energy. So we just can't judge because we just never know what's going to open up for us or where we're going to be. And for everybody out there who's been connected to the truth and the theories and the things out there, I hate using the word conspiracy. I hate it because I just don't think that is the right language. The other narrative. Yeah. But here's the thing. Those of you who have seen those and have understood your own truth within those theories, you really can't go back and you start to look back and go, man, I was pretty judgmental of this kind of thing, or this politician, or this. And then it's like, whoa, I get it. Like, so you got to be real careful, because we may learn information even now that transforms those stories. So you
Absolutely.
you really can't judge. You've got to be so like,
Compassionate.
Yes, compassionate, and in the middle, like the middle way, like,
Yes.
that's it. Like, because everyone believes different things. I've had people who came to me because they were curious and they were really just testing me. And I told them something that made them like shattered their awareness. And they were angry and frustrated and were not nice. And then a year later, 5 years later, and I bet you've had this too, they'll come back and they're like, oh my God, that changed my life. And this happened and that happened. And they're in a completely different space. If I would have judged them for how they felt or where they were, or if asleep, that people like to use. And I hate that too, because it's not asleep. They're just in a different awareness. They're just in a different space, and they're not ready to see maybe something else, or maybe it serves them in their life experience to not see it right now. Like,
and you know, that path, it's those paths that we were talking about, right?
Yes.
Like I'm in Salt Lake City, and I live right at the base of Mount Olympus, which is this incredible mountain here. And I look at it all the time. I've never hiked it. You know, I've been up, I've never hiked to the top, but I was sitting at a park the other day, just kind of looking and enjoying the scenery. And I was thinking, you know, I'm seeing all these people like walking, you know, and they're starting and like, and I noticed this one group, because I was kind of close, I could see them. And there was one group and one person was going slower. And so like there were 4 of them, and 3 of them were kind of ahead, and then this one, and then the 3 would stop. And they'd wait for that person to catch up, and then they'd go again, and then they'd get separated. And then, you know what I mean? And I thought, you know, isn't that interesting? Like, they're not angry at that person. Mm-hmm. They're not going, hurry up, go faster, scale this mountain better. You know what I mean? They're just like, this is their level. This is where they're at. Yeah. So that's life. That's a good metaphor for life. Like, we're all going, you know, we're all going the same place eventually. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's our goal. You know, we're all doing the best we can with where we're at. Mm-hmm. And when we know better, we do better, right? Isn't that who said that? When we know better, I think that was the Dalai Lama. I think he said, everybody's just doing the best they can. And when we know better, we do better. So maybe it wasn't him. I don't want to misquote, but I think that's a quote I have somewhere. But, you know, it's true. And we've got to, and I wanted to share this. I hope this is okay, Lisa, because I was reading this a couple weeks ago, and I started because I'm like, I have to share this on our show. But so I have this little book called The Easiest Way by Mabel Katz. are you familiar with her? So it's all about the Ho'oponopono. You know, the Ho'oponopono. Right. So she studied under Dr. Hugh Len. And so she wrote this book about, she was Jewish, but she was atheist and believed that life had to be hard and all this. So every once in a while, when I need just a good, like simple, like something really simple to just help me remember the truth of me inside, I grab this book. But it says, so it's talking about everybody judging. Okay. And these things happen. There's a story they're telling about this old man, and some things happened with a horse. He had a horse and people wanted him to sell it, and he didn't. Then the horse escaped, and they said, oh, you dummy, you should have sold the horse. You would have had money. Now you have no horse. And everything that the people are saying, the man just keeps saying, it's neither good nor bad. It just, my horse got out. Like, it's neither, you know what I mean? Whatever. And so, and it's about judging. And nobody knows anything. Only God knows if it is a misfortune or good luck for this to occur. And we don't really, it's not ours to judge. And so it says, when we form an opinion or a judgment, we get stuck. We enslave ourselves. And I thought, boy, if that is not the epitome of, when we're firmly rooted in an opinion, of being enslaved to that opinion, suddenly that's got all the control. And that's not our purpose. That's not what we want. We don't want these things outside of us to have control. We want to have the control, right?
Yeah.
But that's where we kind of get stuck, where we think, oh, if I align with this, I'll have control, or I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is, but I just think I loved that, we get stuck, we enslave ourselves when we form an opinion or a judgment. And I think that, it's true. And it comes back to compassion.
It's powerful. And that goes back to what we had talked about that kind of sparked this whole show, which was what Andrew had said. If you're taking a side, you're no longer in choice. If you're in the middle, you can choose, what flows and what doesn't. If you take a side, you're no longer in choice. And that is exactly what you said about enslavement. That's when you're no longer liberated. The liberation and the freedom comes from not choosing and being in that middle space. So when we go full circle back to, how do we explain to people? I think Carrie was the one who said, how do we help people understand? Yes. And you just say, it's freedom. It's freedom to be out of an opinion and a side. And that's what you were feeling, Michele, right? Like that's what we both felt, was like, oh, I just want to be free of this.
Yeah.
If you're feeling hooked and stuck and shamed and upset and families torn apart and all these things, like it's so much more important to just say, you know what, like I'm going to be in a space of love and a space of compassion. And I think, we still have, 10 minutes or so left. And I think it's worth talking about the boundaries, because that's tough, because you have to really, even though you have compassion, it doesn't mean you condone behavior. So you have to sit back and say, like, what are my boundaries? And I can tell you one of mine. I actually asked my loving husband to stop sharing all of the information about what was happening. I said, I simply don't need to know all of that. I would rather be in that shift neutral space. This is my stick shift, by the way, in case
Yep. Love it.
Rather be in my
Old
neutral
school
space to get information than be engaged in outside information. If the minute we're looking externally for information, we're hooked in a side, versus looking at our internal information and then making a decision. So that's one of my boundaries,
Absolutely. And I concur, that's what I did. In fact, I not only told my unbelievably wonderful husband, I told my kids too, like, I'm not doing this, I made an announcement. It wasn't popular. Okay. But I did during the before we even really got into the, like September, I made an announcement, just letting you guys know I'm not vilifying anybody. I'm not engaging in that talk at all on either side, either way, ever. And I mean, not ever, but I don't want to do that anymore. Like, that's not serving me. And just what you said, Lisa, like, I realized, like, all of this narrative and being on one side or the other and talking about it and why this and why that, and is this happening for this reason, and all that, all it was doing was creating clutter in my heart and in my brain, so that I didn't have a clear channel. I couldn't hear, right? I could not hear. And now I literally am having this air stuff on my right side, right?
Yeah.
But even that, it's like, for so many weeks, I've been so focused on what's going on. Why is this happening? Blah, blah, blah. And then one day I'm just like, you know what? You got to let that shit go too. Like, and then like, oh, this is so bad. But then there's gifts from it. And then it's just like, maybe it's neither.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just is. And this is just happening because I need to, and there's things I've got to do. We all go through physical things, right? I mean, nobody's perfect. Nobody's here without any of it, but it's, what do we do with it when we have it? And it's not about being perfect. It's about being compassionate.
Yeah.
So, I set that boundary just like you. But I said it with everybody.
Well, and you're fired. I get fired up, because I think we've both been really honest with everybody. Like we got some anger, we got some shadow energy, because we're like, what the heck? But I'll tell you something, because you and I are both mediums, and I feel like this is the forum to say this, and I think it's okay. People die, and this is going to make me cry. Our jobs are day in and day out talking to people who have lost their loved ones. And it doesn't stop there, you guys. You're crazy if you think it does. They show up in our bedside at night. They show up in our dreams. They show up outside.
Yeah.
How dare people make a big deal over a particular group leaving?
Yeah.
Because people are leaving all the time.
Every day.
And it is sad and it is hard. And the biggest thing that's happening is people are leaving alone, and they have a lot to say. So I don't know about you, but I've got like spirit backlog, because I have all of these spirit energies who are like, we have got to go find our loved ones and talk to them. And I've got to figure out how to get those messages out.
Yeah.
It's a constant like work in progress. And so, Dr. Zach Bush said something really beautiful the other day. He said, it's great that we made these pretty ceremonial things for this particular group, but 3 times the amount of people that left the planet for the He Who Shall Not Be Named, 3 times that amount of people left because of cancer last year, because of the poison and the toxins in our food, in our energy, in our air, in our water.
And nobody's talking about the amount of suicides that have exponentially grown over this last year. Mm-hmm. So you're exactly right, Lisa. And this is the anger. It's like, it's not just random anger. I'm not angry at this person or that person. I'm angry in general, which is hard because there's not a face to put on it, right?
No, there's not.
It's just random. But as a medium, because I know the sanctity, the sacredness of when somebody leaves and they connect with their loved ones, because I've had that on my side as well. I've had mediums connect me with my loved ones,
Yeah, same here.
And I, how sacred it is. And that's why I always say this is my favorite thing. It's most honor that I have in everything I do is connecting people that have passed away, that they trust me enough to come through me, and that the people sitting trust me enough to receive it. And it's when you lose somebody, it doesn't matter what they go. Their life matters, period, because their life matters, and it matters to the people that they loved.
Yes.
So going from this thing that shall not be named is no greater or less. It's a death.
Exactly. And I again, it goes back to judgment. Like there's this storyline about it, and I think it's all tough. It's all hard. Death is hard. It's hard for Westerners, and it's hard for a human being to lose someone they love. But let's not forget about everyone who's leaving, because again, there's like this ism around who's leaving for what reasons.
Exactly. More shame.
People are leaving. It's sad. Yeah. And I just can't believe it. And I've had so many people come to me from the other side in this last year who are so frustrated with their experience when they left. And we can't ignore that. So no matter what narratives are out there or sides or beliefs, like there's absolutely a shift in how death is being managed, and no one's talking about that
at all. And right along with that, and yes, I've had lots of people that have passed away come and communicate and talk about the frustration and the disappointment, and they're worried about their loved ones here because there's no closure. Mm-hmm. They can't get closure. They're going to live with that for the rest of their life now, knowing that they couldn't be with their people, right? Yep. Or the guilt that their person was alone. And so from the get-go, I have been saying like the first week, I've been saying, people, we got to be aware. We've got to have our eyes open, because there are going to be repercussions of whatever's going on for a long time that we may not understand. And that's one of them.
Yep.
Those emotional scars, those emotional things that are these people that are still on this, still in the physical are going to be dealing with, are going to be there. And that's why all these spiritual people are lining up, hoping to get in touch with them so that they can do some of that healing. Right?
Yes.
So, but we got to do it. It's an important job. It's an important job. And, we've talked about that as psychics too, like kind of, shifting more and to do that, to do the mediumship really well, Lisa, we've got to be in the middle.
Yes, because people, when they leave their body, they still have their filters, and so you can't judge that. You have to just share. You're a medium. Like, your job is to share the information. Like, you're the translator, basically, of the charades from the other dimensions and other realities. And so, those are the things. Like, that's why we're doing this show. And an hour goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does.
But I really would love to hear from everybody out there if you felt this was helpful, and if you have questions or things you're dealing with, because we're going to be doing this once every season, and we're really excited about it. So we have 3 more shows coming up this year. And, we want to share kind of what everybody's struggling with, because we're all struggling with it. It is not like, oh, we're spiritual teachers over here and we're good. Dude, like, we've all cried this week. Trust me. Like, we've all had our own drama, and we're all struggling with it, because we have to decide what's right. Like, I have to decide what's right to be on this channel. I have to decide. We all have to make these choices of, like, what's in right action. And I think that's really important, is like right action. Like,
yes.
Right action is not being right or wrong. It's about doing something that's in alignment with truth.
That's our truth.
Yes.
With being in alignment with your truth. That's what right action is.
Yeah.
And, just one last thing I would really love to say, Lisa, is, I love that you said that, everybody's going through. It's like I told my husband last week, there is not a person on this planet that's not in trauma. They may not realize it. Everybody is. We all are, because you can't be a human living with all this and not be in trauma. And so, the people that you see that, spiritual people, they're feeling it. Even if they say they're not, they are. You know what I mean? I mean, that's not a judgment. It's just, you can't not feel it. I've cried more tears in the last, 4 months than I thought I could possibly cry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a cleaning and a cleansing. I know that, so it's like, be compassionate with yourself. That word, I'm going to keep going back to that. So,
yeah. I love you so much, Michele. I'm so glad we're doing this.
And I love everybody who's here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love you guys out there. And just share in the comments. I'd love to hear how this helped you today. Did it help? Is it worth talking about? I think it is. But, we'd love to hear from you, and love to hear what your questions are too. And just so much love to everybody. This conversation is sort of continuing this afternoon, because I'll be back at 3:00 with Julie Hoyle, and she's talking about keeping it real. So she's also talking about, how do we push past all the BS out there? And I think I feel really good, because we're all aligned, all of us together in this community, with like really being able to move forward and to evolve and to ascend and all those things. So thank you so much, Michele. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Lisa.
And we'll see you guys at 3:00.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.